I want to take the chassis so that it's still a highboy. I want to split the back of it and change the shape. In other words, instead of having this ladder-like structure, the body shape's basically a triangle, and that's what I want to accomplish, so that the frame rails follow the edge of the body. I just think it looks better. That way we can keep the body on top of the chassis, make it look a little bit more old school, highboy style, and we'll just make the chassis follow the shape of the body. I don't see why we can't do that. We're doing so many other modifications. I think this will just fit with it. Looks pretty cool, but let me drain it. I'm going to cut this plate. It's going to fit on the chassis over the area where the steering box compromised the structure. So just cut this thing out and weld it in, and we'll go from there. But it needs to happen before we get the body mounted. I'm not particularly interested in making a real clean piece to cover this up. The body's going to be covering everything. Mainly I'm just looking to really reinforce it. So I'm going to lap this plate right on the outside. We got this old 302 motor. It's the same thing we're using, only it's a piece of crap. So we're just using it as a mock-up. It's got all the same mounting bolt holes and everything. So it's a good idea so we can determine where it's going to sit in the chassis and what we're going to have to cut out of the body to get it to fit right. It's a real effort stuffing a big motor like this into a little car. A lot of times with these cars, people cut all this big bubble area out, but I hate the way that looks. I think it's so much nicer to keep it all vintage. I think what we'll do is just cut through here, just get it out of the way of the bell housing. We'll leave all the room for this kickdown linkage, and we'll just slide this as far forward as we can. Look at that. We'll just lose it right through there like that. Probably at least back to here. We'll just do like that for right now. I love cutting these things up. A lot of people cringe, but that's what I'm here for, man. Make something cool out of junk. Yeah, this is all cool because what I'm trying to do, what I think would be sweet, because the seat frame is still intact, you usually don't find bodies with all this action still here, so I think we'll run the seat just like it is in the stock location, and we'll just run a little tube to cover the drive shaft. I think that'll be perfect. Alright, look how ugly the chassis is. Look at that thing. What I talked about before was I want to take this thing and spread it out, put it right along the edge of the body. So we got these two come-alongs, and we're going to give her a pull. This isn't the typical mechanic shop procedure. Whoa. Hold it right there. That's lifting the chassis. There it is. So the next step right now is to just put a support bar in here so that it doesn't move. And we'll see how far out when we put the bed on the back. This is the front, so well, we're gonna butt this up 3.5. Basically, we're going to Z the chassis. We're going to raise it up 12 inches, and we're going to extend it back 3 feet. because this isn't a pickup body, this is actually a four-door touring car body. You can see they don't really match. The pickups are flat back here. I'm gonna actually cut the center. I'm gonna cut the center support in the bed and spread it out, sort of like I did with the chassis, just so this piece here will come around and meet with the line here. It'll just make it look a lot more smooth. Yeah, I think right there is cool. Let's drop it down. See, what this is going to do is allow the frame to come up and over the axle. That way it can drop right on the ground. We'll just mount the springs right in here somewhere. Right. Right. Yeah, the reason I'm taking so much concern with what's happening with the chassis, specifically right here, is you're creating a leverage point. Because we're stepping it up, this piece is going to want to swing forward and cause this part of the chassis to break. So I left it back from the body a bit so we can create another gusset through here, which will spread out the load of all this change in the back of the frame. Basically, we got the whole chassis structure finished. We're ready to start making mounting points for the rear axle. Now, obviously, the bed's sitting too high. We want to get this level here right down to here. I think how we're going to achieve it is cutting out the bottom of this bed entirely. The floor height's not going to be the same, so we're just going to cut it out and get rid of it. And we'll detach this cross member in the front too, so we can make the bed a little bit wider so that it'll straddle around the body. It'll look a little bit more like it's supposed to be that way. Basically going to just destroy a fine piece of American history. It's a very expensive template. Here you got 6 3/4. Yeah, it's got to come up in the back. We're just taking these arms off of the old axle. We're going to use these to locate the rear end.
We'll start shaving it from down here.
Yeah.
From there down.
Yeah, that'll be good. Whatever it takes to just lock that on there. That'll be cool. A lot of these cars run a buggy spring in the back, which is like the super old-fashioned thing. I'm going to use these coil springs because it'll give it a nice soft ride. We'll put some good shocks in it too, so it'll really just cruise nice. I guess bolt up that spring, and I'll make a couple measurements here, and we'll set the spring in there and just see what the heck's going to happen with the weight of the motor on the spring. I think we should just plug this into place and put the weight on the ground, see what the spring does. The weight of the motor is going to affect the ride height, so because the back is so low, I want to be sure that we have the right setting when we weld this piece in here to the front arms. I'm just trying to think about how I can make it as low as possible without doing any major cutting. I want to be sure that it looks cool, but I want it to be safe also. Yeah, works. Yeah, as soon as we bolt on the tire, it's going to be the first run. See how it looks. This is the lowest I can get it without majorly changing it. So let's see where it sits. Hopefully it's low enough. We wanted the car to sit really low, so we took the spring perch, we cut it off over here, and we just plugged it on here just to see how the heck it would line up, and it looks good. We're happy with the ride height. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is because you're suspending the whole car by this rod here, it's going to cause this thing to want to deform. It's going to want to push out, and then this piece, of course, is going to want to just snap off because all the pressure is being put right on this weld. Just to support it, make it look a little bit better, set up a couple of these gussets. We're going to run it along the entire length of the arm here, so it'll give it a little bit more strength so it won't deflect, it won't bend out. And then we're going to make some kind of brace that's going to come around and wrap over the top and support this guy so that it won't pop up and break off. I think that looks really tough. I like it. Alright, we gotta set up the transmission mount and the motor mounts. That's the priority. At least that sucker's established, you know. Let's pull the body off. You want to try to isolate the motor's vibration from the chassis. It just helps. It makes everything smoother. I'm not sure that these are really strong enough for this, but we're going to find out. Eric got the cross member for the tranny mount all set up. All we got to do is drill one hole and then we're going to spot weld it in. Fine. It's lined right up. I wanted to put the steering box and the master cylinder in. I got this cool oldie master cylinder. It came out of another project I had. It's a 36 Ford truck, and we put power brakes on it, so this is the stock one, and it works perfect. It's ugly, but it works fine. I'm going to take the steering box and mount it like this, because that's going to give us the motion that we need. You turn right, it's pulling, and you turn left, it's pushing. It makes the wheels operate right. So what I like to do is just take this guy, lay it on there. This is like the dirty hand template technique. So you need lots of grease, and you rub it. Look at that. Bolt hole, and 3 makes it done.